exactly right.
I was actually born in Brisbane. At that time my father had a property, sheep property, about 100 k's from Winton. And that's really where I spent my babyhood and all my early life. In 1929, when the Depression started, but before that we had droughts. So until 1939, life on the land was, in that area, was very difficult and very non-productive. So most of the work on the property was done by myself, and I became the probably not very helpful assistant. So I just helped a lot with fencing, mustering, and all the sheep work. I learned to ride quite early. I think probably when I was about 4 or 5 I had a pony, and my father used to take a rein, put me in the saddle and take one of the reins and lead the horse as he rode, and I rode on the pony. Very soon after that I got to the stage where I just rode by myself. One of the chores I had was that to provide milk we had goats, so it was my job to milk the goats every morning or every night, which is not something I liked very much, but anyway, it had to be done. Well, Pam, in those days, you know, there was the boys' work and the girls' work. She was mainly helping my mother, so I was helping her father, she was helping my mother. I used to make aeroplanes and stuff out of wood and mother. And my father was very good that way, he let me use all his tools. I was very keen on reading, which I could do at a fairly early age. Starting off with comics and then cowboy books and so forth. And I'd read any time I could. Schooling was by correspondence. Mostly our contact with the outside world was a mailman. Our lessons arrived via the mailman, and we had to supposed to do those. I can't remember much about them because I did as little of it as I possibly could. That's all I can remember about. The beginning of 1935, I was enrolled at the Brisbane Grammar School. A happy time, I suppose. I enjoyed it because there was lots of sport and there were only 50 boarders, so it was a pretty tight-knit community. But there was lots of sport, lots of companionship, and I didn't have many scholastic worries because at that stage I didn't have any ambition beyond going back to the property and ultimately running it. So that's more or less how it worked out. In the senior years, you could pick what subjects you studied to a limited extent, and I picked a lot of easy ones. I'd let it like, as far as I could, I picked those subjects that gave me a maximum amount of time to indulge in the other things. It was mainly for sport, really. You know, in the winter-time football and the summertime cricket with other boys that had similar time off. And then in 1939, of course, when I finished senior, I went straight back onto the property.
It was so amazing when he went to war at only an age of 19. I just can't even argue. That's amazing. You have to agree with that. You did it when you were 19. 19!
Well, my father, 1939 was, I think it was September 1939, World War II started, and he was on the Officers' Reserve, and he was immediately called up. And which was just before I got home from finished school. So I then took over the running of the property. So I ran the property then for the next 18 months. And at the end of that time, one way or another, I managed to get into the army. Joining the army at Selheim, which is a little area out from Charters Towers, in October 1941. So I was 20 years old at that time. Selheim, just outside Charters Towers, was where the battalion first formed and where it did its early training. And from then on, it went north and on the Tablelands and Townsville. At the Coral Sea, it was we were based at Townsville, the Battle of the Coral Sea. Anyway, it was an infantry battalion. I became a corporal and then later on a sergeant and so forth. The infantry company that I belonged to in June 1943, our company was flown into the middle of Dutch New Guinea to a place called Tanamera. It was an area on a big river called the Deagle, and it was surrounded by fairly heavy, swampy-looking jungle in which we used to do patrols 2 or 3 days or more patrols. And generally trained. We got bombed a few times from aircraft, Japanese aircraft, but apart from that we didn't see any Japanese. After we'd been there about 5 months, I got a commission as a lieutenant, and I had to come back to Australia for reposting. I was sent back to Australia and then in good army fashion I was mucked around for months and months and months. So I decided I'd had enough of the infantry and I'd see if I could join the RAE, the Royal Australian Engineers. Yeah, the beginning of 1945 started at the School of Military Engineering, so I was accepted into the RAE and I became an RAE officer for the rest of my military career. I met when I was at hygiene school in December 1944. It's only a small number of people at this school, and were invited to go to a New Year's Eve dance at the British Surf Life Saving Club. And that's where I met her. I asked her for a dance and she was foolish enough to accept. And then we had quite a few dances from one thing and another, and then later on I was able to see her a few times, and so we progressed from there. In 1946, I was appointed as to command or to take over the command of the maintenance platoon at a big military camp outside Maitland at a place called Greta. The Army or the Engineers allowed me to live in Maitland, so Phil came to Maitland and we got a room in a very nice house, and that was where Jeffrey, our eldest child, Jeffrey, was born. At that time we moved back to Brisbane with our baby, but eventually we got rented a house, a small house in Enoggera, number 1 Beatty Street in Enoggera, and that's where we spent the next 5-6 years. Both Kimmy and Kathy were born while we were living at Beatty Street. I might say that Phil always was a full-time housewife and mother, and which she did very, very well, I might add. But she did a great job, and the results were evident. But then later on, when they got a bit older, and particularly when they got towards the stage of going to school, I had more to do with them, and particularly with Jeffrey, he being the boy, and I enjoyed those years immensely. The grandchildren are wonderful things we do, because as grandparents, you have no responsibilities and only pleasures having them. And we were lucky to have marvellous grandchildren, so all of which were very, very fond, and still are. I'm very, very fond of our great-grandchildren, I might say, and they're all wonderful kids, and particularly with grandchildren, great-grandchildren, I just enjoy them.
Penny, why are you so excited?
Because it's Grandpa's 100th birthday.
Georgie, what's your favourite memory of Great Grandpa?
His love. My favourite memory of Great Grandpa is when he took Charlotte and me on a tour of his garden and we picked great fruits and flowers and he was so proud of his garden. It's very nice.
Hattie, so it's your great grandpa's birthday.
He's turning 100.
Yes, that's pretty exciting, isn't it? Do you love him?
Yes.
And what is your favourite memory with great grandpa?
His 99th birthday.
A couple of weeks ago, me and Mum went round to visit, and for about 10 minutes, he was showing us all the special features of his BMW, and then at the end he goes, "Come on guys, hop in, we're going for a ride." And we didn't expect that, but it was so much fun driving around in it and talking to him, and it was very fun.
I'm allowed to tell my friends at school about it and flex on them about it.
I've always been happy to see you. I've always wanted to shake your hand and do good greetings to you.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday and I love you.
Happy birthday, Great Grandpa!
Hey, make it feel like he's 40 still.